Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more. Tricks as good to a blind man. You seen any of this before? Have you seen any of this? You not seen any of this? Nobody has. We have no idea where it comes from, but Kaiyo, amazing whiskey. Hi, my name's Steve Dolby,
I'm Miran Somers.
and this is WhiskyAtEase.
Chill.
That's so loud. Hey, Marin.
Hi.
Welcome to WhiskyAtEase.
Yes.
Episode. I know after you.
Oh, okay.
Oh, episode after you.
Hilarious. So, welcome to our episode 3 of our second journey. Our second journey that we started in the middle of Scotland in the Highlands with Deanston. We had that Deanston 12-year-old that we started off with as the first leg of our journey. And then we went to my favorite island, Islay, where we were talking to the people at Bunnahabhain. And we found the link between those two.
Now, my problem is that this felt like such a long time ago when we tasted these whiskies.
You want to taste them again?
No. Good question. So, yes, the link between the two, of course,
Yes.
was the water and the ownership and the
Yes.
company between the two. And now we're going to go a little further away. So now we're going to go and drink one of my favourite whiskies to my favourite places. And
What's up? What's wrong?
we're supposed to be in Japan today, you know that? Today we actually had, and I have to tell as many people as possible because
Yes,
it's so
of course.
disappointing. We actually had a whiskey tour around Japan that should have started today's whatever date it doesn't matter, but we should be there actually today. And we had a few days in Tokyo because you can't go that far without doing Tokyo.
Exactly.
And then we had 5 distilleries that we were due to go visit and then head ourselves back. So this was we had to cancel it 3 times because of the dreaded pandemic. So talking about a Japanese whiskey is kind of, I don't know, maybe I'm just doing it to myself, the pain.
Yeah.
Disappointed!
The
You
pain.
need to get over it.
I will
There
try.
will be a next time.
There will be, and then we'll record it all and you'll get to join it on us. But anyway, so we have a link then. We knew that was where we're going, and we are here with a whiskey called Kaiyo. Now the thing about this whiskey is that it reads more like a detective story than a traditional whiskey. It really, really does.
Okay.
It kind of appeared. So this whiskey kind of appeared about 2018, 2019, and it was about double the price of a normal whiskey. So it wasn't kind of I'll take that from the supermarket shelf. It was quite sort of unique. And nobody seems to know too much about it, especially those people in Japan.
What?
And that leads us to why we have this connection. And the connection between our second position in Bunna and Kaiyo is actually a gentleman by the name of Jeff Karlovich, who is the master blender that created this Kaiyo Japanese whiskey. Now, it's special on a number of fronts, and I'm going to get into those details, but mainly because of the barrel that it's finished in, which is the Mizunara cask, which is a very special kind of oak tree. It's very, very old, and it grows in a funny kind of way, so it's really difficult to make barrels out of.
To make blanks. Yeah.
To make the straight bits that you then bend. But Jeff was interested in 2 things around this whiskey. The first one was Mizunara casks and what effect they could actually have on the whiskey once outside of Japan. And it's fair to say that since this whiskey has been released in 2018 and it was finished in that cask, we're starting to see more Mizunara whiskies around now.
Yes.
So
Yes.
my Writer's Tears, which is an Irish whiskey I have here, so this is the cask strength version. There's now a version that actually comes in a Mizunara cask.
Oh, really?
That really sounds
Okay.
interesting because
Yeah.
the Writer's Tears is such a beautifully aromatic whiskey, and if you add that into the, the aromats that come from a Mizunara cask, that promises to be quite special.
Okay.
If
I
I
know
can-
that Shiva Regal also do a Mizunara
Yeah.
cask.
So,
version.
so Jeff basically kind of started a bit of a trend off here, but nobody knew where this whiskey was coming from, and we were got interested in it as well. And I certainly started researching it, and basically started to read a lot of stories around people not being able to work out where this was coming from, which distillery it came from, where the whiskey came from, because I'm fairly sure you're all aware, if you're watching this podcast, you must be interested in whiskey, that kind of getting Japanese spirit, it's a bit rare, especially aged Japanese spirit. Even though this whiskey came out and it was a bit of a surprise, it tastes wow, and we're going to tell you about that a little bit later on. But it's worth just sort of Googling, Kaiyo and getting the history behind it. Check out a website. There's a guy called Whiskey Richard that is based in Japan.
Okay.
He's been there for 10 years and he's a bartender and is a connoisseur of whiskey and stuff. And he actually did a lot of investigating and he actually interviewed Jeff. Jeff came and said, okay, let me tell you where this came from. So he works for an organization in the US that actually does cognac and brandy, and he puts them out to sea. So, let's see what happens if we take them into a salty environment. And so he was a bit skeptical about it, but basically his job was to go to Japan, blend the Japanese whiskey, and then sail it back to be bottled and then put out there. And that's exactly what he did. And of course it was a bit of a secret and all that, kind of a bit quiet. A lot of money behind it, so it's not that it's just a one-off shot. And naturally now you can get a peated version of it. There's a new one called a sherry version, SHERRI, that's finished in a sherry cask. So it's actually got a brand around it, but it's based out of an American financed organization. There is now going to be a Kaiyo distillery. So in 2019, they started building that distillery. So in Japan, and it will eventually have its own Japanese distilled spirit. It has Japanese distilled spirit now, to be fair.
But it's undisclosed which distillery it's coming from.
Correct. They didn't disclose, but what they basically said was we couldn't get an aged whiskey. So Jeff, being a master blender around the whiskey, wanted to make it perfect. So they bought their spirit and then they aged it themselves. So they barreled it and stored it in Japan and then created this whiskey. So why is that a link? Well, Jeff was a big player in Bunnahabhain. Bunnahabhain. I will never ever pronounce that correctly. Never ever.
Yeah.
But he was basically there and actually put Bunnahabhain
on the map.
Yeah, I was close then. You didn't repeat me. You didn't correct me, so it must have been good. Yeah, so he put it on the map. So that's our link. So between here and here, obviously, it's about the bottling plant, the water, the organisation. And from here to here, it's that blender, Jeff Karlovich. Except one thing. You can take those away. That's fine. Kaiyo means ocean. So water is our common theme in theory across all three of them. And why does it mean ocean? Because this is the journey that this whiskey takes. And to be honest, it's a very special journey. So it's taken and distilled in Japan. It's stored and matured in Japan in bourbon casks, and then they finish it off in a Mizunara cask. When they've put it in the Mizunara cask, they put it on a sea journey. They actually barrel it together and then they sail it to Scotland. It takes about 3 months. Put it on the boat, yeah.
So it kind of, on all the waves, the idea is that the liquid rocks into the barrel and that it would use more of that barrel.
Yeah,
okay.
It is. So that comes through. What is interesting to Fed is that when it actually comes to and it lands and it gets back, if you have say 15 barrels of this, only kind of 9 or 10 of them are actually solid still. Something's happened to the others. So you still have to do some retweaking and reblending of it to be able to kind of create the whiskey that needs to be done.
I thought you were gonna say that they're kind of the other barrels are cracked or something like that, because then I wouldn't mind being on that boat too. Oh, it's cracked, it's leaking away. We've got to collect it somehow.
What? In the barrel?
So yeah, okay.
Yeah,
that's not the case.
No, that's not the case.
No.
So this basically confirmed for Jeff, because he wasn't sure about it, that actually the sea journey made a difference, and it really does. So this is Kaiyo. It's Japanese spirit. It's got no age. It's unchill filtered. So this is the cask strength version, and that's what we're going to take. And of course, our link with Bunnahabhain is Jeff Kolovich, the master blender, which actually leaves us to do one more thing.
Taste it?
Get some glasses, boy.
There's also a thing, like, I don't know if people at home have seen this throughout these. This is the 6th episode right now. When I pour glasses, I pour just slightly less than Steve does. Steve is a more generous man with his whiskey, so see if you can pick that up. So whenever I pour a whiskey, I kind of tend to pour a little less. But anyway.
He's just a stingy old bugger.
Oh, come on, man.
All right.
Cheers, Moraine.
Cheers.
Enjoy. Oh, that is so different to everything we've tasted on this journey so far.
Exactly. And I don't know if that is the Mizunara cask or if it's the sea travel, but it's so different. There's no comparison to the others, except a little bit of that stingy alcohol.
Alcohol and everything.
Yes, exactly.
For a cask strength whiskey, this is incredibly smooth.
Exactly. That's something that we forgot to mention. This is the cask strength version. So.
Yeah. So what do you get on the nose? And you know that's important to me. The nose is everything. I used to be a leg guy, but now I'm a nose guy. Yeah, that came out.
Yeah.
Right. Plum wine, rice wine.
Rice wine.
So that oriental
yes.
sort of sweetness is in the nose.
Yes, yes. But it is very sweet. It's a very sweet nose.
Yes, it is.
Not like the other two. It's like the other two, the Diensten and the Bunnahabhain. They both had a very close yet sweet nose, and then when we drank it, the taste pulled us all the way in a different kind of way. So let's see how it goes with this one. But as you said, plums, Chinese rice wine. So I used to roll my own sushi, so you had to put some Chinese rice wine in there, and you always get that very typical smell. So that was a good one that you got.
Yeah, no, and the colour of this is because of the I guess the Mizunara casks. It provides a more depth to the colour. So it's bourbon casks to start off with.
Yes.
And then Mizunara. So it's definitely on the golden side.
Those Mizunara Oak being 200 years old, because only then would the tree be big enough for you to make some planks from it. So it's cool.
And then you get from what is a wonderful smooth nose and fruity, aromatic fruity nose, you get a lovely sting in the tail on that first taste.
Yes.
It's not harsh, but it tells you I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm cask strength.
Yes. Yes.
Nothing's been taken away.
No, exactly. It's definitely there. And also it also tastes how it smells like.
Yes.
So you do have that on
Continuity.
the sherry side, on the no, not on the sherry side, on the sweet side.
Yeah,
things.
I like the aromatics. It kind of reminds me a little more of a rye whiskey more than anything else. But it's not. That's wrong actually. It's not a rye whiskey by a long, long way, and it's not only tasting that way. But in terms of what the Mizunara barrel does, it does actually impart a lot more herbs and we call them aromatics, but you know they're basically floral, herby kind of smells, a bit like walking through a herb garden. And so you do get that as on the finish, and the finish warms up over time.
Yes.
So even 10 seconds, 15 seconds, all of a sudden it kind of comes back at the back of the tongue and starts to sort of refill that kind of fruitiness, that rice wininess.
Yeah. I'm gonna put a little bit of water in it to see how that opens up.
Oh, that you do the same. Not a lot left, but then you are used to it. So I've done this before. This is going to make a difference.
Yeah. Yes, so it immediately goes a little cloudy, so chill filtered. That definitely pulls it a little bit back from that very sweet notes. Makes it a little bit more mature,
more
warmed.
body.
Yeah.
Takes away that harshness very, very nicely.
Yes, exactly.
Makes it a touch smoother.
Yes.
But
A
it
little
also
bit
brings
more
out
grass and herbs.
Yeah, I was going to say cut of green apples.
Yeah.
So we're giving you the impression that this is kind of a fruit bomb.
No.
And it's not. Everything about this whiskey, and I mean everything about this whiskey, is subtle and kind of expensive. You know, it's had some care about what it ends up like, how it tastes. And if, you know, we talked about the process 2 seconds ago, it gets blended in Japan and barreled and cut and put into the Mizunara casks. And then it basically gets readjusted once it lands because of the effect that the sea has on it.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can taste that saltiness, but in a really, really pleasant way, not kind of, you know, boom, harsh way.
Nope.
It's kind of there mingled in with the fruit. I think this is lovely. And in terms of our numbers, I
Yep.
mean, this is kind of, you know, sweety, smooth, bourbony, vanilla-y kind of smooth. So it's a 2 for me. It's low down. It's not anywhere near harsh. And now I've put some water in, it might even go down to a 1 in terms of that pleasant drink.
Yeah. It's like I would imagine like Japanese people be. Just like very, very.
In terms of a European culture, this is a kind of a springtime wine. You know, that freshness and the flowers are starting to pop out and the grass is starting to get cut.
Yes.
It's that kind of freshness around it, which is pretty neat. In terms of its maturation, it's neither fully sherry, it's neither fully bourbony, because really the smoothness of those aromatics is what keeps it neutral. So it's kind of a 6, midway between the others. And in terms of fruitiness, you can't take that away from it.
No.
But it's not stewed fruits. It's not overly fruity. I personally do not enjoy a very strong sherry whiskey. Okay, I'm trying to teach myself that they are a whiskey like any other whiskey.
No, absolutely.
But in terms of this, to me, this really is, and I'm not just saying this, this really is one of my favourite whiskies because of that approach it takes to being a little sweety and tasty with that depth without it being overly kind of sherried and stewed fruits. Yeah. So it's a kind of
it's a bit
7
grainy as well. So I get what you
keeps
say.
You grounded. Keeps it grounded.
Exactly. But I get what you say about that rye part because that also has a lot of that grain in there. But this also has a bit of that, not really that barley taste, but a little of that grain flavor.
I agree. No. I agree. So yeah, fruitiness is an 8. Peatiness, none at all. It's not got any of that underlying smoke or depth that kind of, you know, there's no bass notes to this whiskey.
No.
There's no subwoofer at all. That's a new one. Yeah, you heard it here. There's no subwoofer in this whiskey.
It's a whiskey without a subwoofer.
Yeah,
yes. Okay.
I like it. And this finish, you know, when we first tasted this today, we marked it up. I kind of put this in as a 6, but that was a kind of quick tasting. I'm tempted to raise this a little bit because now it's sitting here having fun at the back of my tongue and just playing around. Then I'm kind of going to raise this to a 7.
I agree.
Yeah. Because you're still tasting the same thing, aren't you?
That's still
rice
still happening.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yes.
It's really nice. And as you can see, this one's from my collection and it's one of those that my last inch. It's never going to get finished because I really don't want it to go away. But I am tempted to try and pick up a bottle of the peated version, so I will put that on the shopping list. But there you go. So this is the last part of our journey. We're at episode 3 of our journey number 2. So this is WhiskyAtEase 2.3.
Yes.
Cool. Tell us the journey you put together, Moraine. Tell us where we've been.
Oh, well, our second journey took us from the heart of Scotland, near Stirling, where we had the Deanston.
The gentleman's whiskey.
Yeah, a proper drinking whiskey. And that took us to Bunnahabhain with the same owners, the same water to water it down later on. And that took us to the other side of the world, to Japan. What is that? I keep hearing that.
I don't know.
Anyway, that took us to the other side of the world where we had Kaiyo, that is whiskey in a Mizunara cask, transported across the water.
Bottled in Scotland.
Bottled in Scotland, and the link between those was that very important person to Bunna, that was now the master distiller
Jeff.
at Kaiyo.
Jeff, the master blender, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And in fact, for many years, this was not available in Japan
Okay.
because it left Japan and went to Scotland.
Of course, yeah. Then
So
you need to
it was
fly
actually not
back.
available.
Yeah.
So it was available in Scotland and Europe and the US, but not in Japan. But that will of course change.
Yeah.
As they start to make this thing. So
As a last, did you know that kind of fun fact? Did you know that Ardbeg sent a little bit of whiskey up to space to see what that would do to the whiskey?
is that right?
They did, yeah.
And
I've got no idea. I need to test it.
so it's not really a fact at all then.
It is a
It
fact.
has no conclusion. It's a question.
It maybe has a conclusion, but I'm not in the know. So maybe I need to call my friends at NASA.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah,
Is that John?
maybe.
All right. Listen, you know we're nutcases, so yeah, we go off in all kinds of directions. But this is the end of our journey number 2, so we can now start planning our journey number 3.
Oh,
That'll be fun.
yes.
And yes, it was Moraine's journey. It was an awesome journey, and we really, really hope you enjoyed it with us. And so until next time, please tell your friends. Okay, subscribe, watch the other channels, enjoy yourself, and hey, hope you enjoyed this whiskey journey from Whiskey at Ease. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye bye.